Well, thank you everyone for joining. Today's free monthly webinar from LibreText Academy is our Basics for Beginners series. This is the sixth of ours. And this one is going to be focusing on success stories. So people who have been using LibreText kind of in a fairly different manner in the last year, or starting something new in the last year, or developing things further in the last year, and what their stories are to tell, because you get to hear from us telling you how it works every other month of the series, and this one gives you a chance to ask some questions of users who are not affiliated and joined with us because they like the platform and how to use it, and their school finds some value in it. So just to recap, that we do have that LibreText construction guide that I always kind of bring up here, that goes through and talks about all the different platforms that we have and how to use it. I kind of call this our user manual more than our construction guide, because it talks about beyond just constructing things, but also how to use things. In January, we did a fundamentals. If you don't have an account on LibreText, you can go back to YouTube and take a look at that first one. It walks through what the LibreText LibreVerse is, all the tools that we have, and how to get access to those as an instructor. In February, we talked about the commons and how to find textbooks and how to start authoring textbooks from scratch. In March, we talked about remixing and basic editing, so how you incorporate OER materials into your new book. In April, we talked about the introduction to our Adapt homework system and the assessment tools there. And then last month, we kind of talked about dissemination, not just text, but also ancillary materials, supplemental materials for your books, and how to use LibreText Conductor as a repository for those materials. And then this month in June, we are talking about success stories of using all these things. If you missed any of those and you really wish that you could have seen them, this is a 6-month cycle. So next month is our Libre Fest. So you can feel free to register for that, where we'll do a lot of in-person workshops, not in-person workshops, hands-on workshops virtually. And also along with that, we'll be doing our July monthly webinar, which will be focused back again on LibreText fundamentals, the LibreVerse, and getting your accounts. And then we'll do this cycle again for the next 6 months. So if you missed any of those, you're looking forward to it, this same cycle is going to happen again. So in December, we're going to be looking for some new success stories from the people. So if you do have a success story, feel free to reach out and we will talk about that maybe next time. And that's at academy.libretext.org if you want to see any of these construction guides or monthly webinar series. And we do have a lot of other things that LibreText Academy does. I'm going to give a quick breakdown of those at the end, but the monthly webinar series are just part of the professional development that we now offer at LibreText. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Cecilia, and she's going to talk about her textbook and what she's been doing with LibreText. And again, feel free to interrupt, ask questions in the chat. I'll try to monitor those. And if otherwise, wait until the end, and then we can ask any of the panelists any questions you might have. I'm going to stop
Hello.
sharing. You should be able to take over.
Hello, everyone. I am Cecilia Rosales. I teach Spanish at Estrella Mountain Community College. And I have been using Adapt now for 2 years. It was in its infancy when the platform was, when I started Adapt, using Adapt the way that I am using it now. So I was able to work with Delmar and with Eric to make it really simple to use the homework platform. I am going to show you how it looks in Canvas, how I use the book and incorporate the assignment. So let me share this window right here. Nope, a Chrome tab. I will share my course right there. There we go. So this is what my students see in my Canvas course. And in my Canvas course, students can have access directly to the textbook that is completely free. And the textbook that I use is the Libro Libre Remix from Dr. Christina Moon. So students have access to this free book that I assign specific readings from. but it's not just the link to the book, but rather students can see in their to-do assignments which sections of the book they need to be reading in anticipation of the adapt assignment. So the adapt assets were created by Dr. Christina Moon, and they correspond to the book Libro Libre. And once you decide to use, or the way I use the homework system is that then I chose the assignments. Something that was very helpful for me was to rename the assignments in Adapt so that I would be able to organize them by the modules the way I use them in Canvas. So I renamed the assignments. Although the assignments were not created by me, I renamed them to coincide with the chapters of the book. So the chapters of the book now have a specific C 1.2, 1.3, all of those belong to chapter 1. And I was able to also coordinate that with week 1. So the nomenclature was very helpful for me to have that flexibility to rename the assignments. And I just added them as as if it were an Amazon shopping cart. I added these assignments that I wanted to use. I copied them into Adapt, and using the LTI. The LTI is a setting in Canvas. And it transfers the information from my Adapt account to Canvas. So students have a single login and they are authenticated via your institution's SIS. So that was so essential for me to work with my CTL, Center for Teaching and Learning, and with my district office, the Maricopa Community Colleges and Estrella Mountain Community College, where I attend college. District. So it was essential to get them their approval so that I could integrate and use LibreText to connect the assignments with the grade book. So that's it. Students log into Canvas and they are able to access the link to the section that they need to read, and then move on to use the homework system that is also connected to Canvas. Additionally, I can include activities that are original in Canvas, Canvas native activities and content pages. Um, Students are able to navigate from here, from Canvas to the textbook. They can check for understanding. I love the work that my colleagues have done. It's very interactive. And when it's time to do an adapt assignment, students are just one click away. They don't have to log in again. And we are able to immediately see how students did. So 18 students completed this. And then what was the mean score? 6.06 out of 7. And then you can see more and delve into what kind of assets are we using. And again, this is all very customizable. This is how I began selecting the assignments that I wanted my students to practice with for homework. And then I went to Canvas and I connected my Canvas section with my Adapt section. And then I was able to, from the add button in Canvas, I was able to add assignments. It was helpful to me that I renamed the assignments in order, depending on the module that they belong to. And there was consistency in nomenclature. And then I was just adding them. Something else that's fantastic about this is can be rolled over. So I can roll it over for next semester. And of course, making the corresponding edits. So There you go. That's how I use Adapt. I use Libre. Thank you, Dr. Christina Moon and colleagues at Shabbat College. And I also use Adapt for the homework connected via Canvas, via the LTI app. Thank you, Delmar and Eric, for working on that project. It's fantastic.
Great. Excellent. Yeah. We have a lot of people who have asked many times, how do you integrate your materials from LibreText and Adapt into your Canvas, and how does that look? Which obviously, here at LibreText, we don't have a campus that we're doing it. So it's great to see that in real life. And thank you very much, Cecilia. Any quick questions? Let me check the chat to see if there were any before we go on. There's a question in the chat. It says, did you show us the screen in Canvas or LibreText?
No, I showed you both. I showed you both, and then I can show you this screen. If I can share again, let me share Chrome tab. Let's see. Here is Canvas. You can see Canvas, and I have it organized by week and by chapter and module. You see that, right? And for each week, then I'm focusing on a specific chapter. If you click on the link, this takes you to the reading. It's embedded, the link, which I love. But students can also, and you can also double click on the link proper, and it opens in browser. It takes you to the URL for that book in the LibreText library. So these are different elements within the platform. This is the LibreText textbook. We are returning now to Canvas. Returning to Canvas, this is the Canvas screen that I am showing you now. And I have embedded here as well. If it says adapt at the end, that indicates it is an adapt homework assignment based on the Libre text. So if you click here, if students click here, there is a link that takes students to the actual assignment. So something worth noting one more time, I did not create this assignment. This was created by Christina Moon and colleagues. Thanks again one more time for sharing. What I did edit was the title. If I leave los pronombres, if I leave this title, I will have no clue how to organize it in Canvas. So I took the time to do it by renaming it like this, 2.4. But the change is only internal for this assignment in Canvas. I did not go through all the steps to remix the content myself. So this is an example of taking something that is as is and my edits, and there's been a lot of work. Don't get me wrong, a lot of work. The work has been spent on organizing it, and then of course working with the developers to see how we can roll this over, because then once you save it, once you want it, you can roll it over very easily. Like you see here, I changed the name of this assignment from this to here so I can identify it. And then something also very important is that next time that you are going to use this course, you don't have to begin from scratch. You can go to your course. You can go to your course and remove all the dates at once. And since now you can identify them by chapter, you know that this is covered in week 1 and this is covered in week 2. So there's a lot of flexibility for the dates, because then you can copy and bulk edit as Canvas does. You can bulk edit the dates on when things are due, and if you're going to want the submissions to continue to be open after the due date. And the great thing is that then you only have to do that once. If you do the edits in Adapt, it links to Canvas. So you don't have to edit twice. Thank you.
Thanks for that extra detail. I think that helps. And so I think Cecilia really demonstrates how LibreText and Adapt can be used very similar to what you would get from a for-profit publisher, where here's a book off the shelf, here's some homework off the shelf that's made. For those of you who are curious, Spanish is our #1 Adapt user field. in large part because of a lot of the work that Christina Moon has done with her team of faculty all over, mostly in California, to build those materials. And the foreign languages are very heavy users there. I'll let you answer this, Cecilia. Did you have to set the dates in both Canvas and Adapt, or did you just do one? Oh, you already answered. Yep, just one. Most people leave the links in Canvas live at all times, and then when it goes over to Adapt, it'll tell the student whether or not that's available or not. So you can just set the dates there, and the links will still just be available all the time. Or you can actually hide the links in Canvas so the links are not visible yet, so students can't click on future things. Even though if the dates are set correctly in Adapt, they can still click them, they just won't work. It'll go to an empty page. Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And if you have some other questions that you wanted to ask offline without the recording, just feel free to take a note, or and then we'll jump into that after we finish the other panelists. I'm going to do a quick switch over. So the next panelist that we have had something come up and couldn't join us, but I did get permission to go ahead and share at least the story. So Caitlin Zumault was a chemistry professor at American River College who reached out last summer and said they really wanted to use a book that only had the materials that they wanted to cover in their one semester course. And so she worked with us to remix a book. So this is an example of taking a textbook that has maybe more content than you want and remix it for a one that matches your syllabus in the order that you did it, in the way that you wanted to do it.
Hey, Justin, I'm actually here now.
Oh, you are here. Great. So then she gets to tell her story. That's a nice introduction. I knew it was going to be. I thought you were going to cut. There we go. Let me see. Are you capable of sharing your screen, or did you want me to go to your book?
If you could go to my book, that would be awesome.
All right, I will do that. And I'll actually navigate to this to show everybody where this is at. This would be a book that's not in the bookshelf, so it's not a pre-made book. It's a campus bookshelf, one designed specifically for her campus. And then within the campus bookshelves, American River College has their own bookshelf. And then here is the one with Caitlin's last name, Zumault, here. And then I will let you speak, Caitlin.
Yeah, so like Justin said, we all use our different books for this course, but the school kind of stipulated they wanted it to be free, and I didn't like a lot of the free books that were available, so I decided I would do my own with Libre texts. So basically, Justin kind of gave me the overview of how everything worked in a, short Zoom. And then I was able to jump in and play with it really quickly. And I didn't have a lot of time the first semester I did this. It was kind of short notice on teaching the course. So I spent maybe a few hours going through all of the options kind of for the chemistry textbooks that I would use for this class that they had on Libre Texts. And I kind of found which sections I liked from different like pre-packaged books that they had. And I was able to get into the remixer and just pick and choose different sections that I wanted to make the book cover just what I wanted and in the ways that I thought it covered it best or would make the most sense to my students. And then I arranged it so that like unit 1 is everything that I want covered for exam 1. So I was able to pull all the different sections, and then we put it into a unit, and it didn't take long at all. And then Justin got it published for me. And then this semester, because I'm teaching this class again in the summer, I decided I wanted to rearrange some things. And it took me about 5 minutes to go in and just rearrange some of the sections in a way that I thought it made more sense to students. And this book is completely free for my students. So I have it set up in a link in Canvas, and then I say, okay, this is the material I'm covering on this day or this week, so you guys should read it ahead of time, and they can go in and just read those couple sections. And like I said, it's really easy if I want to change something, move it around, to just hop into the back into the remixer, drag and drop to where I want it, and then hit save, and it saves it. So if I decide, oh, I want to like change this section and actually move it to later in the unit because I want to do it next week instead, I can change it, right when I'm going to use it. Yeah, just like Justin's showing you there.
Great. And you said this did not take you very long because you launched your class, I think, like a couple weeks before.
I ended up launching the book like 2 days before the semester started, and I only spent maybe 3 or 4 hours pulling it all together initially. And then this semester when I taught it again, there was a few things I wanted to change, and I was able to make those changes in like half an hour total.
Great. That is I think the most common question we get is how long does it take to learn this? Because it looks different than what I've seen before. But we wanted to share at least one story of how it really doesn't take that long once you get the hang of it. And you just saw me drag and drop that renumbered everything with auto numbering. It'll renumber all your sections, and it lets you put things into whatever categories you want. So if you want to put all your pages in unit 3 for exam 3 in one spot, that's an easy way to help students to lower the cognitive load of what's covered on what exam and which sections do I not need to worry about.
Yeah, and I think using the remixer is actually pretty simple in comparison to a lot of the other like online homework systems with books that I've used. And I really like the flexibility of being able to adjust it kind of as I go through the semester, or make changes kind of on the fly.
Awesome. Great. I'm going to jump back to here. And I think that the whole point of this kind of organization was talking a little bit about embedding a book off the shelf with some homework for the first time, remixing a book to customize it to your curriculum. And the last panelist that we have is Heather Evans, who is an OER librarian at Coalinga College. And she's going to talk about her first year using LibreText to manage all of her faculty's projects, whether it's homework or textbook writing or just adoption in general, and how to go about using that from the administrator standpoint. So if you want to take it away.
Sure thing, Justin. Hi, everybody. My job is specifically to help our faculty locate OERs that they want to use, adapt them however they need for their courses, and create OERs when materials don't exist. And I've been doing this for just about a year. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So at the moment, this is what my conductor page looks like. I've got, I think it's about 19 different projects going on. I like using the classification in terms of keeping track of what kind of project it is people are working on. So some of these are books that were not created in LibreText, but my faculty really like being able to embed the work directly into Canvas. And if you pull something off of OER Commons or Merlot, it really depends on the kind of file that somebody uploaded, whether or not that's an option. And so I have student workers that help me harvest the books to move them into LibreText, and that makes it just available for all more people, and helps keep things out of being stuck in silos. Some of these projects are curating existing works. This physical science revamp here, my faculty worked with, or several of my faculty worked with faculty across the state of California to create the first physical science open education resource for the state. It's one of the courses that's required for elementary teaching. And so it's supposed to be just a really broad overview of physical sciences. And so it has to cover a lot of material and give enough information for somebody to be an educated instructor without expecting any particular level of expertise or requiring a lot of background math. And it turned into a very large project. We were able to get it done. People have been adapting it. But one of the authors from the beginning would like to do a little bit of editing and maybe a little bit of moving things around. And so I just went over here into Conductor and I added a project and I pulled that book in for him, and I went ahead and added him as a team member. Adding as a team member is pretty easy. You just come here to manage team. It's also where I assign student workers. Not only do the student workers help with harvesting, I also have them help with accessibility checks to make sure that there's alt text for whatever images there are, to work on copy editing, to spot check formatting for me, make sure that all the pages are tagged. There is now a new AI co-author tool. So you don't need to have an army of student workers to do the tagging, but I like having a little bit more of the personal touch there, but this will let you batch edit tag pages. I imagine not many of you are librarians. So the point of tagging is to help make sure that other people can find your work. So if you search for a term and the page is tagged that term, the work is more likely to show up in the commons, and it just helps make sure that all of the work that you put in is also going to be able to do work for other people. There is a timeline. The timeline is helpful in terms of if you're working, especially with the original version of this physical science project, it was several collaborators who were not geographically close, and so projects could be assigned via the timeline. And so this sort of lets me do that all here. Honestly, for the most part, most of my projects tend to be more localized. And so I have one or maybe two authors. They see each other in person. A lot of the coordination isn't required to be handled online. And so you won't see a lot of that being tracked here in the percentage columns. So in the past year, I have managed to be part of 29 completed projects. And like I said, there are 19 going on right now. And, it's easy for me to check in and see where the project is. It's easy for me to ask people what it is that they need. One of the projects that we recently completed was an English textbook. And one of my instructors had ended up accidentally pulling in a bunch of extra information in the remixer. And it was very simple to just go back to the remixer and remove the stuff that we didn't need. You just go ahead and you go into here, I'll do it on one that's, here. So one of the projects I set up is just called the Faculty Sandbox. And it exists to add people to, so that when an instructor is asking, I'm like, hey, you know what? Here's the thing that you cannot break, and it doesn't matter what happens to it. And so I've pulled things over. I have a section on the Fourier series. I don't remember why. One of the pages that I brought over specifically was from, I pulled from an OpenStax math book, because we were harvesting a book that had required a lot of LaTeX to make the math equations show up appropriately. And I needed to see what that code looked like on the back end. And so I could open up the project, or I could pull in the remixer just a page from a book that had the sort of script that I wanted, and then look at it in HTML and then import that into the book that I've been harvesting. So that's been fun. And in terms of being able to get all of these together, we also we elected to join the LibraNet membership. And so our college now has their own Commons page, and specifically for books that our faculty have requested to be harvested, for that our faculty have adopted, and that our faculty have helped create. And I was able to choose whether I wanted this to say collections or subjects or departments. I went with departments here. I named only the departments that we have things for. If you click into these, click into here. These are the books that our instructor, Ms. Brixey, has made specifically for her courses. Some of these have been curated. Some of these have had a little bit more authorship. And all of that depends just on what it is that's that they've found to be available and how much extra customization they want to include. And so it really provides a lot of self-determination in terms of what it is that you really want your courses to look like, and how much you want the students to have to how much you want the students to be exposed to, and how much you want them to be able to focus. Because sometimes, like with the physical science book, when overwhelm is always a thing to think about. And because I was able to just choose these departments, some of these groups are a little bit smaller than others. The education and elementary education is going to have that physical science books because that was a discipline that we created that book for. We also have a math for educators book. And again, this is for like K-3 instructors. Whereas if we come down here to English, we're going to have a little bit broader of a range. So not every book that our instructors have, or all of the books that our school has been responsible for harvesting or creating, are over here in our catalog. However, and also books that we've adopted just wholesale, but I am in control of which books appear here in departments. And so I can make sure that this is specifically for the things that that my faculty have helped create, in terms of being able to use as much OER as we can while still being able to be accurate when we are talking to students about the work that it is that we do, that we're not just claiming credit for other people's stuff. And the conductor page lets me handle both of those, or all of these different projects at the same time. So over here on the control panel is where I get to play system admin for just our commons page, and managing collections is really straightforward. I can add collections here. I can rename them. I can go, if I go into this one, I can go ahead and just add resources. I could nest collections if I wanted to get more specific. I don't recommend that necessarily all of the time for making it easy for people to find, but everybody has their own collection density. And this has all been able to get set up in 10 months in terms of what LibreText has really helped us achieve. And I find that being able to keep in touch with a bunch of different faculty at the same time, to be able to move back and forth between the different kinds of projects, to remember what kind of project it is that we're looking at, and to be able to modify what it is that people are, make sure that I can enhance the discoverability of our work so that it does the most good for everybody, whether somebody decides to adopt or whether they decide to build off of the work that we create. Because my favorite thing about OER is how much it is about sharing, and we don't all have to do it together. LibreText has really helped with the embracing the iterative nature of the work. So thank you.
Like, we have a question from Cecilia for you.
Yeah.
I saw your hand up, I think.
Sorry, no, not me. I was just clapping. Good job.
Oh, clapping. Okay, clapping looks a little like a hand. Sorry. Great.
No,
Excellent.
no, great job. I love it.
Excellent.
All
Well,
right.
at this point, I'm gonna wrap up the quick logistics stuff, and then we'll open up the floor for anyone to ask any questions of any of our panelists or myself. And then we'll turn off the recording. So as we just heard from Heather, that wraps up the 3 panelists. Remember, there's one top person who used things basically off the shelf and embedded them in their existing LMS at their campus. That was Cecilia, followed by Caitlin, who took something that was existing and mixed it up to fit her curriculum needs by remixing a textbook custom for that course. And finally, Heather, who talked about it from the administrator standpoint of project management, getting things going on campus, and facilitating the needs of the instructors who are building these materials or using them for the first time in their class. And I've worked with many people using all 3 of these things. I am Justin Sorb, and I work with the LibreText Academy. Again, this is the free monthly webinar for June. We'll start over again in July with our basics for beginners, how to register, how to get an instructor account, and how do you use all these materials, and what materials do we really have. We are definitely more than textbooks. And wanted to point out that LibreFest is next month. It's a very low-cost virtual meeting, but it's hands-on, so you can attend and actually do some of the work that you want to get done maybe by fall, and learn some materials and ask a lot of questions and hear about how a lot of these materials work. Those are our free or very low cost. LibreFest is very, very low cost. Unless you're a LibreNet member, then you get to go for free. We also offer some paid professional development services like in-person or virtual workshops. So if your campus is looking to start some of these or get some training, please reach out to us at the LibreText Academy. We've been doing some cohort training where authors get 12 months of support or 6 months of support, where they have monthly office hours to work with us to build materials, long-term mentoring programs. We do have asynchronous training modules that are launching. The free ones launch this month. Paid ones are launching next month. And we have ability to build professional development modules for you and host them for you along with books. And we even work with grants. So if you have a campus that's looking to write some grants and maybe needs a dissemination mechanism built in, that always helps a lot. Feel free to reach out to us. And the LibreNet member, Heather mentioned being a member of that. Those custom books that Caitlin made, your campus can have up to 5 of those for free, but once you start moving past 5, that costs more money for us to kind of support those customized books. So that we ask you to become a LibreNet member. It's very low cost. In fact, from a librarian standpoint, it's oftentimes the cheapest subscription that they have to purchase. I believe it's $2,500 a year right now. And you can a lot of resources for your campus there. You can learn more about that at the LibreNet consortium page. And with that, I'm going to conclude the recording portion of this and open it up for questions.